Greetings, weary travelers, and welcome to another episode in our 1980s fantasy season, and the first here on Silver Screen Regular Flavor. This time around, we're heading to the land of Fantasia via Germany and your own imagination, as we hope not to get sued by Lionel Hutz for false advertising and tell another chapter of the NeverEnding Story. I am your host, Michael Wilson. I suppose I'm the Bastion Bucks who frequently wills this podcast into existence. I'm joined by my regular co-host and trusty sidekick, hoping to avoid the swamp of sadness. It's DK. Hello.
Hello. If you're Bastion, that means I'm Atreyu. So I was really pretty as a boy, but not so much anymore.
I was thinking more Artax, but you know.
Well, I do have that depression, so.
DK, for God's sake, stop being sad. Yeah, and we are thrilled to be joined by two lovely ladies, as loyal as Falkor and as wise as a childlike empress. No new names needed. It's returning guest Sandy, first of all. Hello, Sandy.
Hello. Definitely feeling more like Morla, but allergic to youth.
I did not understand what she'd said, and I looked up the quotes from the film, and I was like, "Oh, that's what she said." I thought she said, "I'm allergic to you," and I was like, "How rude!"
My entire childhood, that's what I thought it was.
Really?
Exactly this moment.
Wow. Okay. There we go. We've all learned something today, I guess. So yeah, that other voice you hear is fellow returnee Lady Vean. Welcome back, Vee.
Hi. Oh, glad to be here.
Yeah, you seemed keen to talk about this film, and it's a film I will let the audience know right now that I had never seen before the podcast, but I wanted to see it for a while. And again, I've said this before, but that's part of the reason why I do the podcast. It's kind of like an experience for me. It's a little bit of a film education, and it gives me an excuse to watch these things. So I am all caught up. I have watched it now, but I hadn't seen it before. And when I put out the call to come on here, you guys said so. So I presume you do know it.
I did shame him for that regularly until he did.
Well, now you don't have to, and I've even bought the book to read, so I shall shame you for not reading once I've finished it, in about 20 years probably. Anyway, before we dive into the NeverEnding Story and our full review, I'd like to start out with a couple of questions, and this is not our first of the 80s fantasy season. We've been lucky enough to have been kicked off by DK over on Cult Classics, so thank you in advance for that, DK.
No worries, no worries. Well, I'm not apologizing for the first one, maybe the second.
Yeah, so by now you will have already seen the reviews of Labyrinth and Krull. So yeah, this is actually not the first one, but it is the first on Silver Screen Regular Flavor. So with the hope that the episode I haven't edited didn't see you doing this already, DK, I thought it would be a good start to our season to go around and ask if anyone has a favorite 80s fantasy movie, present one that we're reviewing notwithstanding. So yeah, let's see. Vean, I'm going to ask you first. Do you have any particular favorite 80s fantasy movie or a couple that you wanted to shout out?
I love 80s fantasy. In particular, one of my favorite genres of film, particularly 80s fantasy that was made for children, even though it's more broadly applied than media made for children these days. So I would say Labyrinth is probably my number one. NeverEnding Story is way up there, as is Return to Oz, if you haven't seen that.
Oh, I have.
But I love Return to Oz. So those three, Legend is also ranks pretty high up there.
I think you're on the review we're doing of that, because we are reviewing that at some point. So cool. Yeah. Yeah, cool. What about you then, DK? I'm going to come to you because, clockwise, and you're on the screen here next, I think. So do you have any particular...
Labyrinth and this one.
Okay, fair enough. So not a fan of Krull then?
It serves its purpose.
We'll come to you last then, Sandy. And you going to tell us the same boring things, or is there anything else you wanted to shout out?
Well, this was the top of my list. This movie here was everything. This is the one I drove my mother crazy with. Literally, she can't hear the song without, nails on a chalkboard to her. But the other ones that were in rotation, just not quite as much. I didn't have as much access to them. I loved Willow, and Flight of the Navigator was really up there too.
Yeah. We're reviewing Willow, but I completely forgot about Flight of the Navigator. That's one I'll definitely have to consider for a future year, maybe, because, I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and I remember loving it when I was younger as well. Dang.
Yeah, and how lucky were we? And I was scrolling through Disney the other day and just saw all these early fantasy movies, and I was just like, I never really realized what they were doing, to what our tastes are today, being
Yeah.
fantasy and sci-fi. Disney absolutely started it.
Yeah, for sure. Now that you've mentioned Flight of the Navigator, it's brought to mind Batteries Not Included as well, which I don't know why those are linked in my mind. Maybe they came out around the same time, but I also haven't seen that since I was a kid, and it's another one I kind of want to rewatch, which is also not on the list.
Mentioned Biggles.
I literally had never heard of it till you brought it up.
Yeah, just pretend you didn't hear about it, mate.
Maybe I will, but no. I mean, I'm trying to think if I have any other favorites that aren't obvious as well. Obviously, The Princess Bride was one I have to shout out as my all-time favorites. I can't think of something else. I mean, there's the obvious ones. Obviously, the Indiana Jones movies, I guess, would kind of count as 80s fantasy, or at least two of them would. I'm not sure if Last Crusade was the 80s, or was it? Actually, yeah, probably all three.
Yeah, we're 89.
It was, yeah.
There we go then. And again, I'm not sure if this would count as fantasy or sci-fi, but Short Circuit is an 80s film that I really love. I'm going to call it fantasy because, robot comes to life when struck by lightning. It's pretty fantastical. I'm guessing there's no scientific basis to it. So, yeah. And again, we'll probably end up reviewing some of the other ones. You'll see my thoughts on them as we go. But yeah, that's cool. That's fair enough. So the next kind of question that I wanted to ask for a bit of interest was, obviously, I hadn't seen this before, but you guys, I presume, like I said, all had because you wanted to come on the episode. So why the NeverEnding Story? What particularly appeals to you? What was it that kind of made you fall in love with this film and made you desperately want to talk about it on the podcast? And Sandy, you've kind of started us talking about that. So do you want to get into a little bit more depth with that?
Sure. Mine's a bit of a more deep story as well, in that my hero I lost when I was 14, which was my grandfather. He took me to see this when it came out, and we always would go on what we called dates, and it was always just like out to eat, to the zoo, like he would museum. He was very much into knowledge and learning, and at least half the time that would end at a bookstore. And so we went to see this movie in the theater, and then went to the bookstore afterwards. And I just remember this being like the most highbrow concept my 6-year-old mind had ever been exposed to. This kid's reading a story and we're watching his story. I would just remember being very blown away by it, and really probably what got me more voraciously into reading at that point. And it really shaped my entire, how I feel about imagination and how important that is to me, and how much I love stories, books, entertainment, anything that has a good story. I mean, I really feel like this and my grandfather's love of it as well is what sparked that. So it is probably the most important movie to me.
Wow, so it's like a foundational movie in the Sandy lexicon, so
yes.
Cool. Okay. Fair enough.
What's interesting and is that at that same time, my grandmother and grandfather were I was the only grandchild, so they competed for my attention. And my grandmother took me to see, a few weeks later, the re-release of The Jungle Book in theaters, and I didn't care for it. And she was so saddened by that. I remember the tension, but not really fully understanding. So I just thought that was a bit funny.
That's so weird. My grandparents showed me a lot of the Disney classics, but not at the cinema. We just tended to watch them on video. So all of the old ones I've got memories of watching at my grandparents' house. So, yeah,
I knew I was going to tell this story, so I went and looked it up to see if it was right in my mind as far as the timing of it. And I saw that the re-release it was good for a re-release. It made 23,000 in theaters total box office for that rerun. So I was like, wow, I'm one of 12,000 people to see this movie on that re-release run in the theater. So if only my grandmother knew how significant of an achievement that was.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and you kind of showed a lot of interest in talking about this movie. So why does it appeal to you particularly? What was it that you fell in love with?
Well, I think that there were a lot of facets that really appealed to me and still appeal to me. We had it on VHS. We had taped it off TV. In fact, it was on the same VHS as Labyrinth that we had also taped off the TV. And I just remember that opening with the clouds and how it was triggering in a positive sense. As soon as you saw that, you knew you were going on this journey. And I think visually it's a stunning film. The story is amazing. And I think even as a very small child, I felt somewhat of a misfit and liked to escape into other worlds. And so I think that aspect of the film and the story appealed to me because I'm like, that's what I do. And I would also like to escape to Fantasia. So yeah, I think that's what really drew me to it initially. But it stayed with me all these years, not just because of the story, but because of the artistry of the creature design, of the prosthetic, just absolutely amazing filmmaking.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I completely, and I can see what you mean about the kind of connection to, I guess, anybody that feels like an outcast or feels bullied or whatever. I think that would have appealed to me if I'd seen that when I was younger. Not that it doesn't now, you know what I mean? It still does, but I think it would have hit a lot harder if I'd watched this when I was younger. I'm kind of sad that I didn't in a lot of ways. But yeah, I don't know why this completely bypassed me. I just had never got around to seeing it, and it wasn't on my radar for whatever reason. Yeah. As a random quick aside, by the way, Vean, did you know that the German release of this film doesn't actually have that intro?
Yes, I did actually. They also don't have a lot of the pop synth music, which is
No, it's all completely different. Yeah. Yeah, because I had no idea it was actually a German it was a German story originally and a German movie and everything. And there's an extended version of it that was the German release, but it's very different. As I said, the different intro. And like you said, there's no Giorgio Moroder pop synth soundtrack. It's a completely different composer who does it. And there's no song, which is the only way I knew about this blooming film. I've been hearing the song for years and loving it. So, even before Stranger Things made it popular again. So, yeah. So, right, DK, over to you then. What about you? What appeals to you about the NeverEnding Story?
I just think it's a fantastic story. I mean, I'm not familiar with the book. I haven't read it. I did used to have a German girlfriend that absolutely loathed the movie simply because she grew up with the book. Yeah, so it was nothing like. But I strangely enough, I mean, I don't know the German version without the Marauder stuff, but I love the Marauder stuff in this, and and this is partly one of the things that sells it to me. I remember watching it. Didn't go to the cinema to see it, but I remember watching it on rental back in the day, and I think at that point it was Betamax. So
show your age again.
Yeah, and I watched it several times in the hope that the scene with Artax would just disappear and go a different way. but yeah, I've always liked this one. Weirdly enough, I don't. It is one of my favorites, but it's one of those films that I don't consider one of my favorites until I watch it. And then, I was watching it last night for this show, and I was impressed at how well it holds up.
Yeah. I've got to say the same as somebody who's watching it now, many years removed from its release. It doesn't look dated or anything terribly at all. There's a couple of things about the composition of the various people in the scenes, and when Falkor's flying, you can kind of tell it's an obvious. But I don't mind that. There's a kind of charm to that I think you lose if you start George Lucasing and going in and removing it and all that. It kind of loses a bit of something. So I don't mind. And I have lots of information about this movie because I was really, when I was reading about it, I was genuinely fascinated to learn about the whole backstory and everything. I should say that, again, because I learned it was originally a German story, you were mentioning your German ex. I did ask our friend Toby, who weirdly isn't on this episode, our friend from Germany. And for whatever reason, he has absolutely zero cultural awareness of this story, doesn't know the author, doesn't know it was originally a book, had never heard of the film. And so maybe it's just gotten lost over the generations because he's very young, but he just had absolutely no awareness of it whatsoever. And I was like, that is bizarre.
Is he going to check it out now you've mentioned it?
Probably not.
He didn't sound real excited about it.
Yeah, he didn't sound very enthused, to be honest. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, moving on to the NeverEnding Story, we may as well dive deep into it. The NeverEnding Story, or in German, Die unendliche Geschichte. Sorry, I probably butchered that, Toby and any other fellow Germans. Is a 1984 fantasy film co-written and directed by Wolfgang Petersen in his first English language film. It was produced by Bernd Eichinger, who I know from the abysmal Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, randomly, and Dieter Geisler, and it follows Bastian Balthazar Bucks, a boy who finds a magical book that tells of a young warrior who's given the task of stopping the Nothing, a dark force from engulfing the wonderful world of Fantasia. So, yeah, as I said, we've kind of gotten into everybody's thoughts and feelings on why they want to talk about this. So I'm going to go through the behind-the-scenes stuff, and if anything you wanted to mention anything stands out, or you have any questions, feel free to chime in. I'm just going to dive straight into it. The film is based on the first half of the 1979 novel, The NeverEnding Story, by German author Michael Ende. He was initially happy about his book being turned into a film. He worked with Wolfgang Petersen as a script advisor and was paid $50,000 for the rights to his book. Ende claimed that Petersen later rewrote the script without consulting him, and that his adaptation deviated so far from his book that he requested that the production either be halted or the film's title be changed. When the producers did neither, he sued them and subsequently lost the case. Ende called the film a gigantic melodrama of kitsch, commerce, plush, and plastic. So, wasn't a fan of the adaptation, shall we say? Much like your German accent sounds like.
Yeah.
So, as I kind of alluded to earlier, the film only covers the first half of the book, cutting off in the middle of chapter 13 and tacking on an ending that betrays the pre-established logic of having crossed the boundaries with Falkor and having chased the bullies into a trash bin. Yeah, I do not like that ending. I think it's abysmal, to be honest. You kind of tells it, quickly wrap it up. Yeah, not a fan. German producer Bernd Eichinger had seen his children read the book, and they urged him to make a film out of it. He was reluctant, but eventually agreed to do so, joining Dieter Geisler, who held the rights to have the book made into a film. The German language version is 102 minutes long, 8 minutes longer than the English language version. Some scenes are longer, and some scenes in the German version are completely missing in the English/international version. The German version has a score by Klaus Doldinger only, with no score by Giorgio Moroder and no song by Lamal. You can find a detailed list of the minute differences on IMDb. I'm not about to go through them all. It's quite a big list. So, a life-size prop of Falkor, which I'm so thrilled to hear this, resides at the Bavaria Film Park, Munich, in Germany. It's a popular spot for fans, especially because they can climb his back and take photos with him. I really want to do that now. I mentioned that to Toby, and he was just not interested at all. He was, I don't live close enough to Munich. Well, you're in the same country. It's Falkor. Go get a picture. Jeez.
I think I always kind of assumed regarding the ending that Bastian was imagining chasing the bullies into the trash. Like,
Oh, okay.
I never took it as that like literally happened. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not what was intended.
I believe in my research, the filmmaker's intention was definitely, he's broken through the barrier into the world and then we'll go back or something. But again, it's purely just because they had to wrap it up and it's only halfway through the story. So they had to do something that felt, I guess, conclusive. But yeah, to me, it just reeks of like, well, this doesn't make any logical sense. I know it's stupid to apply logic to fantasy or whatever, but it does have an established logic until that point. So yeah.
And as a kid, it was fine.
If I'd seen it as a kid, I probably would have been like, okay, yeah, good. He got his comeuppance, I suppose, the bully, so whatever. But, anyway, Falkor the Luck Dragon is actually a 43-foot-long motorized creature with 6,000 plastic scales and pink feather fur, which I don't think shows up on the film. I always just assumed he was white. But his head is 3 feet tall and long, and he has a long tongue in his mouth. Many of the book's illustrations depict Falkor as a Chinese dragon, even though the text describes luck dragons as looking nothing like normal dragons. Instead, Falkor is said to have a long white and wingless body with talons, ruby white eyes, pink white shining scales, a beard and long mane, so other illustrators gave him lion-like features. He was given a dog-like appearance for the film, presumably to make the character connect better with audiences. I mentioned that to you off air, Vean, yesterday, didn't I? That it was the filmmakers decided to make him look like a dog, and I think it really works because he just ends up looking so cute.
And the reason is that when I got my dog from the pound, Falkor was in the top 3 names I almost chose for him. So
yeah, which would have been a cool name, but Sam I Am is also a good name, so it's fine.
And same thing, we had a fuzzy Dachshund when I was little, and my mother named him Oscar, but then someone else wanted to name him Ulysses, and then I tacked on von Falkor at the end, so that was his full government name.
Wow, that's a long, very posh sounding name. Oh, well. The original Orin for the film, by the way, now hangs in an enclosed glass display in Steven Spielberg's office because he was friends with director Wolfgang Petersen. That's kind of cool to know. Right before... Sorry, go ahead.
Mike, hold on. Interjection. The reason being, Spielberg helped with the cut for the
Okay.
international version. He helped cut out those 7 minutes to make it a little more tight for an international audience.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Well, thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense then. No, yeah, cool. Cool little prop to have, I would imagine, as well. Although personally, I think I'd prefer the book. But,
you should have asked the answer
anyway.
to the BTS this time. She knows more than you.
I probably should have, actually. I didn't even consider that. But if there's anything I haven't mentioned, by the way, Vean, when I finish, you feel free to jump in.
There's no subject that I don't know more than Mike.
I am so close to kicking you from the room right now.
I take ships. You could outdo me on spaceships.
In your face.
All right.
Anyway, I'm not sure if I should be so proud of that, but anyway, right before Bastian, Barrett Oliver enters the bookstore at the beginning of the movie while being chased by the 3 bullies. One of them runs into 2 men. The blonde man on the left who bumps into the dark-haired man is played by director Wolfgang Petersen, and the man to the right with a cigarette in his mouth who drops his milk bottle is Bernd Eichinger, the producer of the movie. So that's your director and producer cameo there. And it's not related to this movie, but I do remember reading in the course of my research that there are bullies in NeverEnding Story 2, and that one of them is the first film appearance of a certain Jack Black. Weirdly enough.
Wow.
So, yeah. I'm not sure if that's a good enough reason to watch the sequel, because it does not have a very good critical response. So, yeah. You might want to do what I did and just read the book instead. Anyway. So yeah, that's all I have for the BTS. Did you happen to know anything that I haven't mentioned that you thought was worth giving a shout out to, Vean?
I don't know if we're going to get into it later. The first scene at the Ivory Tower has a bunch of character cameos. There's, when they do that sweeping shot where you see the man come out to say the Empress is dying. And all those characters are in silhouette. There's C-3PO. There's some Ewok. Wow. There's a bunch of characters in that scene.
Wow.
And also, and I just found this out recently. Apparently, Noah Hawthorne, who plays Atreyu?
Noah Hathaway, I think.
Hathaway. They dubbed his voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Some uncredited actor. I had no idea, and watching it last night with that knowledge, I think that's an incredible job of dubbing. I mean, there's very, very few chances, or not chances, very, very few points where it's off.
Yeah.
Whoever that
job
sync.
Yeah. But we're getting back to Krull territory, talking about dubbing people's voices over again here, aren't we?
Yeah, but this is a successful one. This was dubbed correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I presume it must have been dubbed into German at some point, because I'm guessing it was shot in English. So I'm curious I'd love to see the extended version, but apparently it's nearly impossible to find in any way that we could watch. But I'd like to see it sometime just out of curiosity. But anyway, and to see what the German response to it was. If anybody other, hasn't got a response like Toby of what? Never heard of it. But, anyway. So yeah, the next thing that I want to do then is to move on to the writing or the plot of the story. We've kind of talked a little bit about it and started to get into it, but yeah, I kind of want to generally start with what is it about the writing and the plot that you think stands out or that particularly appeals to you or speaks to something in you? Vean, you kind of started talking about this. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
The writing in particular?
Yeah, just the overall plot idea, because I mean, there's a lot of big things that it deals with. Obviously, there's the meta aspect. There's also the, child dealing with various things aspect. And I guess, like I said, at least part of it is what appealed to you as kind of an outsider, as you said, that you could relate to Bastian.
Well, the funny thing is I'm not overly fond of Bastian as a character, but
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the story concept itself is so remarkable because, it feels maybe a little cliche at this point, because so much has been done in this genre. But I think at the time, it was a very unique idea of the story within a story within the story and how all things are kind of interconnected and the limitless nature of human fantasy. So I think that comes from the book more than the screenwriting. In terms of the screenwriting, I love the use of language in terms that it's almost archaic, but not quite entirely archaic. So it's the characters in Fantasia, not outside of it, they have sort of this timeless quality because of the way the dialogue's written, that even though we can look at this and go, okay, this is 80s fantasy, just because we know that, but the writing itself could be anywhere in any time. I love that about it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it's sort of hinted at in the film, but certainly made a much bigger deal of in the book, that the idea is that it's called the NeverEnding Story because it's been going on for, you know, generations, and then every generation reads it will then pass it on to their kids or to some other child who will then, you know, read the story and name the Empress anew, and then that way it will keep going on forever. As opposed to, you know, the literal Lionel, I'm going to sue you because the film ends, meaning that we all heard the jokes about, I'm sure, in the 80s. How could it be never ending if there's a sequel? Shush. Whatever. But yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I noticed at the very start of the film that isn't really brought up, at least in the stuff that I was researching, is that it feels like the main character, Bastian, is dealing with the death of his mother, or rather not dealing with it. And that's kind of also part of it, is that like there's quite a lot of like mental health type stuff in this. And I thought it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of conspicuous that he, you know, his dad says, we've all got to get over it. We've got to stop daydreaming. Your mum's gone. We'll just have to move on with our life. And I was like, wow, is this kind of retreating into a fantasy world, kind of his way of trying to reconcile the feelings that because his dad just won't talk about it? Was that just me, or did you guys pick up on anything like that as well?
I expect that the character already had an inclination towards escapism and fantasy and reading, but that it was exacerbated by the death of his mother and the fact that his father is not confronting it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because I noticed there's a lot of things like that, like I said, that speak to kind of mental health, and you know, that this being, in a way, the film kind of saying it's kind of a healthy thing to do, to have this imagination, and trying to knock the kind of childlike innocence out of you is not a good thing, you know, because like I said, the fact that his dad's like, stop daydreaming, and everyone keeps trying to tell him to grow up and be responsible, and he'd rather kind of get lost in this fantasy, and it's not portrayed as a bad thing in this film, or, you know, or in the book, which is very much kind of a testament to that. Never lose that imagination or whatever. And
I mean, it goes into it later when he's talking, when Atreides talking at the end, and he's saying, you know, people with no imagination and no hope, they're a lot easier to control.
That's Gamork is his name. That says that, actually, because I identified, I'd said this to Vean off air, but I identified that quite quickly as the kind of key theme of the story, which is the nothing is basically trying to make you lose hope, because people without hope are easy to control, which is, like I said, the very it's unfortunately even more timely than ever now when you look at what's going on in the world. And I just thought it was very like, wow, that's a powerful statement, you know, that the forces of evil that want to control you or whatever would rather you have no hope. So, you know, because that way it's just easier to deal with things. And I think this also, it's a nice message to be like, just stay hopeful, you know, and if you don't, you're going to end up, I guess, drowning in a swamp. But otherwise, you know.
And it's okay to keep your dreams alive.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, and in the words of Doctor Who, it's okay to, you know, be a grown-up and still be a little bit childish sometimes, I think, as well. But on that kind of sort of mental healthy type area, I did note as well that I think it's quite telling that to get past the gates that we mentioned, you actually have to have self-confidence. So it's not just about like losing yourself in these things. You've also got to believe in yourself. And I was like, I appreciate that, because
I would have been so screwed.
Dude, you'd have been dead in the swamp after 3 seconds.
To be fair, I wouldn't even made it that far.
Terrifying scene in the movie. I think the tension of that scene holds up even today. Even having seen this movie 100 times, watching it last night, it's like, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it? Oh God, I'm gonna get shot. I think that build up to him crossing the first gate, or on the way to the Southern Oracle, is so unbelievably well crafted.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I think it's really well done. The whole thing, I think, is well done, and it's paced brilliantly, because it never really gave me a chance to be bored with it. So I think perhaps maybe if I was to watch the other, you know, even if it's only 8 minutes longer version, it might be a little bit, I guess, less effective. But I really love the way it's paced and everything. I think it works really well. Although I was surprised how little of a role the childlike Empress plays, because she's all over the, you know, DVD covers and the posters and stuff, and she's barely in the movie at the end. But
that was probably just not to make it look like to attract children of each or all genders, just to kind of have interest in it, I bet. But that wasn't needed because Atreyu, he was quite the handsome young man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, going back to that scene with the Swamp of Sadness and Artax, I kind of have to mention that it is a key thing. And I've got to say, I've heard so many times over the years about people who have been traumatized by that. And there was a story I read that Noah Hathaway for a while would take a kind of a tray full of dollar bills when he was doing conventions, and said that if you've ever had to have therapy from the Swamp of Sadness scene, take $1. That's kind of a funny way of addressing that, I suppose. But I have to say, watching it for the first time, I've kind of already mentioned to you guys off air, I wasn't super affected by that because I wasn't a kid, and I just was like, oh, well, I guess the horse will come back, I suppose.
Like, you were expecting it.
Yeah, that's true. I was expecting it as well because obviously it's been talked about to death. So,
and you are an unfeeling son of a bitch.
Coming from you.
Hey, I had buckets watching that the first time. It brought a lump in my throat last night.
I was going to say, I was just waiting for you to say, yo, depression is a feeling.
I remember getting over that easier, though, than, in my subsequent rewatches as a kid. But I could never get through the scenes with the Gamorreek. After watching it a few times, after that, I'd fast for ages, 9 through 13, I would fast forward that part.
So interesting. Yeah. My brother was terrified of Gamorreek. He's 2 years older than me. And we had this like Ben Franklin style wood burning stove in our or fireplace, whatever you want to call it, in our living room. And he would be scared that Gamorreek would be in it at night if he had to like get up and go to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Asked it. So he was scared of that. But for me, it was absolutely the Swamp of Sadness and Artax. And that scene is still gut-wrenching. I don't know, about 10 or 12 years ago, there was a re-release of this movie in theaters, and I took my little nieces to see it. And I remember getting to that scene and like I kept glancing over like, you good? You okay? You good? You okay? This is good. I mean, they made it through. But, I, for the audience who doesn't know, I was a zookeeper for 14 years. I've worked with a lot of animals. Do you know how they did that? They trained a horse to stand on a platform that lowered into the water, and how they got that. To this day, I can't figure out how you would train an animal to do that, particularly a horse, because it goes completely against every self-preservation instinct. And how they did that without that animal panicking, my flabbers are gasted. Let me put it that way.
I didn't know that that's how they'd done it. I remember reading, don't worry, there were no animals harmed, that it was all perfectly safe and everything. But I didn't know that's actually how they'd gone about doing it. Because watching it, I was like, well, this is definitely a real horse. Like you could tell 80s level animatronic or kind of computer effect would be very obvious. And it's obviously not that. So I was kind of curious how they did that. So I'm pleased you kind of mentioned that because, that was kind of something that was in my mind of like, how exactly? But like I said, I guess just very well trained in that case. Yeah.
Hardest horse in existence, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the pacing of the Oracle scene, but I do think for me, the pacing of the whole thing was really good. I think that's what I meant. What I loved.
It is.
And how many places we went, and how in an hour and a half, it felt like a 3-hour-long movie in terms of how absorbed we got into that world and all that we got to see and learn about it, all the people we met. Like I know Vean had mentioned, Spielberg helped craft it down to that tighter run for international audiences, but it doesn't feel like anything's missing or it's just so great.
It's interesting you said that, Sandy, because I have exactly the same thought when, rewatching it last night. I was like, is this really only an hour and a half? I always think of this movie as being like 2+. I was amazed because I really hadn't seen it in a long time about how fast the pacing was without being jarring.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I was surprised for the same reason because, like I said, you never get a chance to be bored, and it all moves on exactly as it feels like it should. But at the same time, it's not too fast, if you know what I mean. You still feel like you've got enough time to get used to the world of I keep wanting to say Fantastica because that's the name in the book, but no, Fantasia. You get enough time to get used to that and meet the characters and learn what the quest is, and it moves along at the right pace. I will say there is a bit that I didn't like or feel was necessary, and I get the feeling it's going to be very controversial. So I'm waiting to be chastised for this. But I really didn't see
like the fact that, Bastian framework aside, a lot of the scenes in Fantasia, it is very heavily exposition, but it never feels like heavy exposition. You feel like you're just getting to know these characters. You're dumped in the middle of this thing. And even when it's being explained to you, it just feels kind of natural. It never feels like a lecture, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think the creativity on display when you first see the rock biter, and then after that scene with the rock biter, you go to the ivory tower and you see all these characters. I just think the imagination and the creativity on display in this, it still takes my breath away.
Yeah. I mean, I would echo that, and Vean had said the same already. So I want to echo what you've both said in terms of the creature design and everything. It's so good, and that's why I think it feels like you want to spend longer with them. Not that that's too quick the time that you do spend, but you would happily spend longer learning about them and seeing the rock biter and the kind of guy riding the racing snail, or the kind of gnome couple, I guess they are, that help toward the end there. And I was like, I'd happily spend longer.
And it's why. Oh, I was going to say it's why the Gamork followed your brother, why he came into my nightmares, why I tried to use my grandmother's or my mother's multi-string pearls to make a diadem on my head. It just all really comes to life and sticks with you. Yeah. So I want to thirdly echo what y'all were saying.
It's
for sure.
Film now, particularly film for children, they all look exactly the same. It's all CGI, it's all green screen, it's all actors reacting to nothing, and in-shaped mouth, and it's so to see something like this where the design is so special and unique, and even though we could say, okay, yeah, this is this, you could look at certain ones and go, this is a Henson design, and this is a this design, and this is a that design, you can still see the unique quality of them that is just so stunning.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be borrowed from anywhere, like a nighthawk, a racing snail. Truly unique.
Yeah, I thought that about the rock biter. I was like, this is such a cool idea. And it's obviously from the book, but other than that, it's not based on like any old myths or legends or whatever. It's just a cool concept. I was like, he's so cool. And Falkor, for that matter. I mean, obviously I fell in love with Falkor immediately.
But when you look at the character designs, just for the people stood around in the ivory tower, I want to know more about those like big-headed
cameos.
kids.
Yeah. Oh, those. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was confused about that because there's such a lot of characters in that scene that I was like, I figure we're going to revisit some of them. And yet it is just for that scene, which I think is, again, testament to kind of how good the filmmakers were, that they created this weird menagerie of characters. And they're just there for that scene, just to build up the world a bit. You never see them again. Like, oh, okay. Because that would easily be a sort of terrible CGI, multiple characters replicated scene in a modern film.
Oh, God, yeah.
Suffer for it.
Now, DK tried to save you by changing the subject, but now I'm really curious. What's this view you're about to get ostracized for? What scene do you think this could have done without?
There is one thing I think that could be missing from and I know it's part of the book as well, so it's not the film's fault, but I just didn't see the point of the scene with Mauler, because it just felt redundant.
I loved that scene. What's wrong with you?
It feels redundant in terms of the quest, though, because basically Atreyu is told to get further on the quest, you have to go and find Mauler and she'll give you the answer. Then he gets to Mauler. Mauler complains a little bit and then says, "No, not me. You've got to go to this other person." I was like, well, then what was the point in that stuff off? You could have went straight to the person.
Hero's journey, I guess. And he wouldn't have been in the swamps of sadness if he didn't have to go find her. And just for it to be feudal.
Yeah. I mean, it just felt redundant. I was like, you could have easily cut Mauler completely and just had him, learn from somebody to go to the right place. And then, again, you'd probably avoid the swamp of sadness, which could be a good thing, but still.
So important, that scene, now that I think about it, is that it gives Atreyu the opportunity to give up when he goes, oh, but that's so far. It's 10,000 miles away. And this is a chance for him to go, I can't do it. I can't do this. I give up. And he doesn't. So I think that's why that scene's important, and why the interaction with Morla is important, because it could have been he just went to the right person and hey, is that how life works? No, it's not.
Well, I guess, yeah.
That are like, okay, plan B, that didn't work out. So yeah, I do think that's an important scene. I won't say it's my absolute favorite, but I do think it registers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it terribly. It's not like a complete, ruins the entire film thing. And if it was a longer film, I'd probably be a lot more annoyed about the inclusion of it. But given that it's only 90 minutes anyway, I'm like, all right, we'll indulge a little bit. But I just thought, narratively speaking, if I was writing this, I'd be like, we don't need this scene.
It's funny because when I remember when I would rewatch it, and when I say I would rewatch it, I just want you to understand, I would watch it and then I would rewind it and then I would watch it again. And then I would rewind it and then I would watch it again. And I did always look forward to that interaction. I thought it was funny. I loved how one time he thought she wasn't going to sneeze and then she did. And I just looked forward to that almost every watch.
That's fair enough. And I do like that it's the first time we kind of see the breaking through of the fantasy with reality, because it's when Morla emerges that you hear the scream in the real world, or that Bastian does. And so I kind of appreciate it for that level as well. But
okay,
I just think, story-wise.
Who here has ever screamed reading a book?
Yeah, that kind of took me out a little.
Yeah, sorry, it bugs the crap out of me.
I don't think he doesn't scream, does he? I think he just hears people in the Fantasia scream, or that's how I read it anyway. Was I not paying attention?
No, he screams because.
Oh, okay.
And they heard it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I've seen this once. I'm going off my notes here. So I see what you say.
And I don't know why I misread that because he is in the coziest attic I have ever. I dream about that attic.
Yeah, but that's the other thing that I wrote down in my notes is how terrible and lax is this school that he's supposed to be in class, and instead he just goes to the school attic and bides, just makes himself comfortable and starts reading a book.
It's one of those places where, as a kid, I wanted to go. It was that and the library from Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I love that thought too, and also just being completely uninterrupted, except for the storm, while you're reading. Just a secret place, completely uninterrupted. Yeah, I just love that aesthetic as well, a reading nook.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, cool. I just have a few more notes that I want to mention about the writing in this film. First of all, again, as a kind of testament to how kids' films in the past didn't talk down to children, I was very surprised at the use of language like "you'll die" or "they're dying" or whatever, because for some reason that seems to get sanitized more and more once you hit the 90s, and it's all a lot of, oh, I will destroy you, or you'll be destroyed, and you can't use language like die or death. And I was like, well, they really are not shying away from that in this film, are they? So that was a bit of a surprise for me. And again, in terms of, the power of books and language, I think the film emphasizes that a lot. And I think that also ties nicely into the idea that, the key point of the quest is to give the Empress a name, because words have power. And that's, words, books, stories. I get it, I think. That's what they're trying to say anyway. And yeah.
I think it's one of those films that actually make you want to read.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it made me want to buy the book. So.
Well, I saw that you got it, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I did closely tie, reading books to this. I mean, I really think it's what made me take off.
Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about what appeals, and again, as I've said, just to re-emphasize, I think the key point is the Nothing can represent a lot of evil forces in the world today or any other time. It's kind of timeless, not just because it is so generic. And I will say, by the way, that Wolfgang Petersen has said in an interview that the rolling clouds are not supposed to be the Nothing. They are just symbolizing its arrival, the Nothing you're not supposed to actually see or grasp or comprehend. So the clouds aren't it, literally. But yeah, I like that kind of the fact that it's saying that, and that Gamork, like I said, gives you the key thing of, I'm now serving it, because if you lose all hope that you'll have control, and I'm a servant of evil. And I can't understand why anybody would like the Gamork Vean, but
But it is cool how they broke down that concept of nothing for kids when they talked about the lake. No, it wasn't a dry lake. It wasn't even a hole in the ground. That at least would be something. This was nothing. And just how they made that concept easy to grasp for very young children.
Yeah, and again, it could be me reading things into it, but I think there's various things that are metaphors for depression in the film, and obviously the Swamp of Sadness is the more obvious one. You know, you can sink and you can drown into your depression, and it can consume you. But I think the Nothing is an interesting representation of that as well, because it is literally like you can't see it; it's not tangible, but it is destroying everything, and yet when it goes away, it's like it never was. You know, because you've defeated it, and there's nothing to show for it, kind of thing as well. So,
You know,
yeah, very interesting deep stuff.
That is when I said earlier I was going to write a paper when I learned about existentialism. The crux of my paper was a line where Atreyu says, "The nothing is everywhere." And I mean, I just thought, you know, try and get your head around that for a second. You know, it's such an interesting way to phrase that when the nothing is nothing.
Yeah. Nothingness is everywhere, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, again, and I was quite surprised that the film ends with basically everything more or less destroyed, other than a few kind of bits of shrapnel, you know? I was like, wow, they really are pushing this for children. And so I would think I was more affected by that. And I was especially affected by the rock biter just giving up. Like, he couldn't hold his friends and he dropped them and just kind of collapsed into a heap and was, oh, I can't go on any longer. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is this nearly eternal being more welcoming an end.
Yeah. Well, as I said, Noah Hathaway is the young actor who played Atreyu. Hathaway was hurt twice during the making of this movie. While learning to ride a horse, his horse threw him off, then stepped on him. And when, I know, right? While shooting the drowning sequence in the Swamp of Sadness, his leg got caught on the elevator and he was pulled underwater. I'm assuming that's the elevator that was used for the horse that Vean was talking about.
Yes.
He was apparently unconscious by the time he was brought to the surface. He almost lost an eye during the fight scene versus the magic wolf Gamork. One of the claws on the giant paws poked him in the face, and the robot was also so heavy that Noah had his breath knocked out of him when he was hit to the ground by it.
Wow.
They only made They only made one shot due to the risk that he would get seriously injured. Yeah. You've already mentioned this, but during a convention appearance at DragonCon in 2010, Noah Hathaway revealed they used virtually none of his recorded dialogue and instead hired a different actor to dub his lines. Hathaway's voice is actually rather high and he has no accent. So, yeah. Successful, though, because we didn't realize it. So there we go. And if anybody's curious, Noah Hathaway now owns and operates a tattoo parlor in Los Angeles, California with his wife. So I don't know if you want to go and find it, anybody that lives near there, but there we go. That's what he's doing with himself. So what are our thoughts about Noah Hathaway or about Atreyu? Vean, I'll ask you first.
First of all, what a beautiful child. I mean, remember,
yeah,
like, wow, this guy is not like an attractive way, just like, wow, he is beautiful.
Yeah.
I do think he gives a good performance. I think, especially knowing it's dubbed now, I do a lot of heart into it. I think there's a lot of energy. I think he's charming. I think he has a wonderful, wonderful smile, but also can just capture that sadness and feeling overwhelmed and pushing through. And I think he really does give a good performance. I think this is back when child actors were actually actors and not just like, you look right. Let me put you, you know.
I know. I mean, look at what he went through in the film. I mean, you'd get sued like 20 times for the amount of near-death experiences he apparently had. Do you have any thoughts on Atreyu, DK?
I just think he's a terrific actor. And I had no idea that he was dubbed until this. As, you know, everybody
I read it and it still didn't occur to me. I read it before watching the movie. Then when watching the movie, completely went out of my head. So it can't be that glaring.
It used to be a very prevalent thing in these kind of movies from the 80s. What with, you know, Sam Jones in Flash Gordon and this. And obviously, you know, Deep Roy was dubbed. But I never for a second thought that Atreyu was a dub. It's,
well, and as you already said, Lisette Anthony in Kroll as well. Dubbed,
I think he gives a fantastic performance, even though, unlike Vean, I would be interested to see some scenes of him with his regular voice, but you can bet it just would not be the same now because, you know, I'm used to hearing a certain type of voice. So I think he gives an absolutely fantastic performance, and I think that holds for at least a couple of the child actors in here that they really sell it.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Sandy? Any thoughts on Atreyu before I move to the next one?
Just that as others had mentioned, his portrayal of a, confident but not cocky warrior child was done really well. It definitely pulls you into the story, takes you along for the ride. You don't think about it being a child acting. And so, he just was Atreyu. And also new to me that he was dubbed. I can't imagine discoupling the actor and the voice actor now, but I just thought he was really great.
Awesome.
One last about Atreyu. Did you guys know he was supposed to be green?
Yes, I did read that. Yeah, that he's supposed to be green and look very different. Yeah.
I was gonna say they did some screen tests and they thought, oh God, it looked so bad on film. They're like, no, you can just be normal. You can just be normal.
Yeah. I have that under production design, and just to add to what you said there, they did try it. They did a makeup test, and Noah Hathaway says it wasn't believable. I looked like Fun Guy. So yeah, awesome. So I'll move to the next child actor then, and that is Tommy Stronach, which I hope I'm pronouncing right. She played the childlike empress, to whom Bastian gives the new name Moonchild. The childlike empress was just childlike. She's existed for as long as there have been stories to tell. She was portrayed by Iranian-born Israeli-American dancer Tommy Stronach, who was only 11 years old when the production started. Stronach lost both front teeth shortly before filming. She wore fake teeth, which caused her to lisp until she got used to them, which again I didn't really notice. She was attending theater classes in San Francisco when she got the audition. Her acting teacher was friends with the production executive and talent scout Anna Gross. Tommy initially believed she was auditioning for a little play and had no idea it was to be a major motion picture. So any thoughts on the childlike empress?
She's amazing. Amazing. It's well, first of all, the makeup really, really does wonders. Because she does have this ageless quality and this very ethereal quality that I think is hard enough for an adult to pull off, but to think of an 11-year-old being able to do that, their first motion picture performance, like, it just blows my mind. Because I think about, myself at that age and going, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have pulled that depth of emotion and the way it translates, not just through her whole face, but particularly her eyes with that makeup and the costuming and that soft filter over the camera that kind of gives her like they put a little Vaseline over the camera, it gives it that glow. Just phenomenal for the small amount of screen time she has to be the second character we're talking about. I mean, incredible.
So any thoughts, DK, on the childlike empress?
I think as an actress, she's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I'm watching this, and I'm not a young person, let's be fair, and she conveys more emotion in that brief screen time than a lot of actors do with an entire movie. And
it's devastating when she cries, and she's kind
of. It is. It brings a lump to my throat when I watch it, and I can feel tears welling up as as she's performing. And I just think, again, for the limited amount of screen time, it is a fantastic performance. Absolutely fantastic. And I can't fault her in this whatsoever.
Fair enough. Sandy, would you like to say anything else, or just echo this sentiment?
Just that her performance did really command you to stop and listen to everything she said and kind of hang on every word. And it was just her whole presence and charisma. So that's something that I just wanted to add.
For sure. What I'm going to do then, I'm going to go over the other actors just because I don't have anything really about them. So I'm going to go through them all and then just ask, if anybody particularly stands out from them as I go through them. So obviously you have Barrett Oliver playing Bastian Balthazar Bucks, who's kind of the lead of the film-ish. You've also got, Patricia Hayes as Urgel, Engi Wook's wife, Sidney Bromley as Engi Wook himself, Gerald McCraney as Barney Bucks, Bastian's father, Moses Gunn as Chiron, servant of the Empress, Thomas Hill as Carl Conrad Coriander, Deep Roy, as we've mentioned, a kind of well-known kind of dwarf actor, plays Teeny Weeny, the messenger on the racing snail, but his voice was dubbed by Frank Lenart. You probably know Deep Roy if you're a fan of Tim Burton or Doctor Who or millions of other things. Tyler Bruckner as Nighthawk, the messenger riding the narcoleptic hang glider Bat. and Daryl Cooksey, Drum Garrett, and Nicholas Gilbert as Ethan, Todd, and Lucas, the three bullies. Robert Easton, uncredited, as the voice of Mauler. And DK, I'm going to have to come to you to ask this question. Are you aware who it is that voices Falkor, Gamork, the Rockbiter, and the narrator?
I am indeed. But go on,
I knew you'd know. It's an actor called Alan Oppenheimer, who as it turns out, has an actor who has the power, shall we say? Because he's known for many voices, including the lead character in Masters of the Universe, the Filmation 80s fantastic cartoon series. So yeah, I couldn't not hear that, especially at one point when I think it's Gamork says something like, "And I will have the power."
Yeah, everybody did a good job. There's nobody here that I think lets the production down at all.
I thought Baron Oliver was good. I
have to say, Deep Roy is really freaking handsome in this.
He's a handsome guy, just generally, dude.
I don't know. When I see him in Tim Burton, my first thought isn't, wow, I'm getting the vapors. But in this...
Well, I mean, this is like 30 years later, in fairness, dude, you know. If you see him talking about the 70s Doctor Who behind the scenes, he's a handsome guy.
Yeah. I think of these, Sidney Bromley was my favorite playing Ingewook. He was just that character through and through. And his movements and everything, he actually looked like a tinier person. I know a lot of that was the perspective of how they shot it, but just how nimble he was, it was all really great. And I found his character great comedic relief in that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Cool. What about you, Vean? Is anyone else that stands out that you wanted to mention from the people we've mentioned?
But it was just funny because what DK said about Deep Roy, I was watching this last night. I went, holy shit, is that Deep Roy? And I was like, wow, he was really good. Yeah, so I had a very similar reaction. Similarly to DK, I will say Barrett Oliver is the weak link here. I don't think it's a particularly good performance, and I have seen him in other things. And I think this is a very typical, very standard child actor who you bring in, has a look, can get the job done, does a serviceable performance, but is not particularly good. But he had enough of that sort of everyman kind of look to him for the 80s that he was going to be relatable to, I think, a broader audience than if you'd necessarily brought in a child who could give a better performance, but maybe people wouldn't relate to as much, or the producers didn't find them to look as relatable.
I see.
So I think
I will chime in here and say, just to defend him for a second, that as the first time viewer of this, I didn't think he was terrible, and there was a couple of moments that really affected me. I found myself affected when he cries during the Swamp of Sadness scene. It was the most affecting part when he's getting upset about it, and
those are not even real tears. That's glycerin on his head, and he goes to still there. It's no.
And the other moment I liked was the riding of Falkor, just because of the sheer joy and because I wanted to be doing the same thing.
Oh, loathsome! I just can't wait. But I do think the wit are brilliant. I think the voice acting for the Southern Oracle as the face starts to crumble. I don't even know who does that, but just beautiful. Yeah, beautiful voice acting. I just think everybody actually does a really good job, with the exception of Barrett Oliver.
Okay, fair enough.
Even as a child, I remember finding his parts very cringy.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of see where you're coming from, yeah.
Except for the exchange at the table, I did feel for him at that point, and them just doing normal getting breakfast together things. His dad kind of dismissing him, not connecting with him at all, and dismissing, he was drawing unicorns. They weren't horses. Give me a break. That part was good, but then everything after that, it just didn't resonate.
Yeah. I've had a look on IMDb, and there is no credit, unfortunately, for the Oracles, I'm afraid, so I couldn't tell you who they are. They remain completely uncredited. But yeah, good job. So I'm going to move on to the directing next then, because I kind of want to, not spend too long here. The director Helmut Dietl was originally attached to direct the film, but he later dropped out and was replaced by Wolfgang Petersen. Contrary to some rumors, the horse that played Artax did not really die during the filming of the Swamp of Sadness scene, as we've said. Wolfgang Petersen confirmed that the horse survived. In fact, 2 identical horses were used for the scene, and they were professionally trained by a horse handler for months. While the scene was filmed, the crew would alternate between the 2 of them, and both horses remained unscathed. Petersen also expressed full understanding in the shocked reaction of the audience, and he also said that the sadness of the scene was necessary for the story and the character. So, yeah, everything's fine. And that's all I have about the direction, other than some things that I kind of appreciated, which I haven't written many things down because I was kind of absorbed in the movie. But did anything stand out to you, Sandy, in the direction that you wanted to mention?
I thought the direction was quite good because everything from the way things were framed, from the way people moved around in the scenes, nothing took me out of the story, really. Even, despite what I had said about Bastian's actions later in the film, there were still little parts of it that were still attention grabbing, just the way he positioned himself, reading the book and things like that. So I think the directing was really well done. Again, just every character became that character, and it draws you in. It's just each portrayal is very engrossing, and I'm sure that the direction had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, cool. What about you, DK? Anything stand out for you?
I love the especially at the start where it's trying to build up the world of Fantasia, and he immediately starts reading, and it cuts to the Rockbiter.
Yes,
and I think it kind of lulls you into a false sense of security. But the way these characters are introduced, the direction on that scene, I think it sets it up perfectly. And I like the fact that Petersen, in my opinion anyway, the way it's set, the way it's structured, the way it has Bastian's narration on certain scenes, it actually does make you feel as though you are kind of watching a book unfold. And I think when it comes to that, Petersen did a fantastic job of translating.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. Absolutely. Yeah, the introduction scene was fantastic. And I like, it's not just in the intro, but you can kind of see a good example of it there, the way that different sizes of people and actors and prosthetic creatures and things are all seamlessly integrated. You never think, oh, they're filming them separately on separate places or they're composited in badly or anything. I just bought into it immediately. And as you said, the meta kind of postmodern aspect of you feeling like you are the character reading the book, living the story, I think is very... It hasn't really been mentioned too much, and I think it deserves credit for that as well. So anyway, Vean, what about you? Anything from the direction stand out?
Yes, there's a tenet to directing, which is don't let them see your fingerprints. And I think this is a really great example of that, because you can be watching a movie and a certain element will jump out at you and you go, oh, this is a Tim Burton movie. This is a Quentin Tarantino movie, because they have certain signature things that they do, or, thematic or visually. And in this case, there's never a moment that you see that and it distracts from the story being told. And on top of that, you have somebody who masterfully, because the director is the one who, at the end of the day, is responsible for the entire product. Entire piece, I should say. I don't want to call it a product, but so that being able to interweave how the music is going to work with the visual and working with the art department to develop what this character needs to look like, what this makeup design, what this character design needs to look like, how the dialogue should flow, the pacing, being able to weave all those things together without leaving a single fingerprint that distracts to the audience is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, completely agree again. And the other notes that I've got are already things that you've mentioned. So I just want to second what DK said earlier about how the characters in Fantasia give you a lot of juxtaposition, and yet, what's the word I'm looking for? You mentioned it earlier, DK. It's all exposition. That's the word I'm looking for. And and I kind of liked the way the way it juxtaposes the scenes, and it stays a bit fluid. It doesn't feel like you're just stopping for an info dump. I noticed that, and again, I noticed the intro, which I also love. Vean, the opening scene. It's not in the German version. I think again it does set up the tone perfectly, not just the song, and just all of the scenes of Falkor flying. But I think that's just because I really liked Falkor as soon as I saw him, and yeah. Anyway. So, and the next thing then I want to talk about is the VFX production design. The bulk of the film was shot at Bavaria Studios in Munich, with the street scenes and the school interior in the real world shot in Vancouver, Canada. And the beach where Atreyu falls was filmed at Playa de Monsul in San Jose, Almeria, Spain. Must be nice. I mentioned earlier, the Nothing is not supposed to be the clouds. It's meant to be this other thing. The book describes the Nothing as a formless entity that devours the realm bit by bit. A black void so deep that people looking at it fear they are going blind. But this was likely too difficult to realize on screen. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's a bit, as you said, existential, really, isn't it? And, yeah, that's all I kind of have about the... Is there anything about that we haven't mentioned about the VFX, the production design or creature design, anything like that? Do you want it to mention, Vean?
Are we talking about character design as well, or are we?
Yes, yeah, anything to do with the production, the special effects, the visuals of the film, shall we say?
I think the fabrication of the creatures is unbelievably well done. I think the elements like Falkor's lips don't exactly sync up, but he's also a dragon, so there's that. But I think one of the design choices that I really, really love is Gomork's eyes being that vibrant green. I think it would have been so easy to go with red or even yellow and just be that very stereotypical, but they do that beautiful vibrant green that I think really brings that character into a different realm and makes him feel almost a little more menacing, because we're not used to associating green with that kind of evil and villainy. So I think that was a really fantastic choice. I think that just the fabrication of all of the puppets are just beautiful. They move completely 100% naturally? No, but they don't need to.
I still find that charming. I'd rather that than a CGI kind of, nothingness.
And I also think the prosthetic design, especially for the scientist and the witch, and for the prime minister, I should say, I actually don't know what his title is, who has that fin on his head. The feathering of the edges of that prosthetic, where it blends in so beautifully to his natural skin. Or the three-eyed creatures. I just not three-eyed, but almost three-faced. Like
yeah, that was so weird and trippy. Yeah,
the prosthetic, not even a like just a statue or a sculpture. That's a prosthetic that somebody wore.
That's incredible.
Incredible quality. So I just think the character designs are absolutely stunning from start to finish.
Yeah. The character you mentioned is just referred to as servant of the Empress, and it's called Chiron. Just
and the warmth of the set where the scientist's little lab with his wife with the cauldron, it looks real. It looks like a real place. It looks like a real tangible space you could step into and not a set. I cannot say enough good about the production quality.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah. And what about you, Sandy? Would you just echo that, or did you have anything else you wanted to mention that you stood out?
I would pretty much just echo that, and just adding in how much I liked Morla, the idea of herself being the mountain he was looking for, and just her agelessness, and thought that was another creature I just wanted to shout out, along with everything Vean and DK said.
Yeah, I did love the actual representation of Morla and the way she's presented, because like I said, the idea that it's massive and she is the mountain itself. As much as I didn't love that scene on a narrative level, I did like it visually.
If you look at this, especially in like that crowd scene in the Ivory Tower, there is so much care in each of these individual characters. And as you said, because there is that much care, you expect to see them later. But no, they're just in there for that scene. But it just looks so beautiful. And I think that's one of the reasons why this film holds up, that everybody in this film, there just seems to be attention to detail and so much care to bring this story to the screen, whether it's narratively successful compared to the book or not. it still looks beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's similar to me the way that a lot of people go into raptures about the original Star Wars movies, because they would do things like the cantina scene where you have, any one of those characters could, and by this point probably has, got their own story that you can tell, and they're all unique looking and they're all brilliant, but they're all physically there. They're not just CGI mess as we got later. And as you said, it's the same in this film. When you see things like Vean mentioned, the weird sort of three-faced things or the various prosthetic creatures, and you're like, I would happily read a book or a comic or the little mini film about any or all of these characters, and yet nowadays they just wouldn't go to the effort of making them because they just go, it's only a 2-minute exposition scene, we'll just do some background CG or chuck something in that'll distract or whatever, and it ruins world building not doing it and not going to that effort. So it's worth commending when it does happen, I think, as well. So right, so the next thing on my list then is the music and sound. This is kind of stuff I've already been over, but just to clarify, the film score was composed by Klaus Doldinger, who was from the German jazz group Passport. Fair enough. The theme song of the English version of the film was composed by Giorgio Moroder, with lyrics by Keith Forsey and performed by Christopher Limal Hamill, once the lead singer of Kajagoogoo, and Beth Anderson, who rarely gets credited. It was released as a single in 1984, peaked at number 4 on the UK singles chart, number 6 on the US Billboard Adult Contemporary chart, and number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. The Limal song and other techno-pop treatments to the soundtrack are not present in the German version, as we've said, which just has Dolginger's orchestral score. Moroder also rescored several scenes for the version released outside Germany. So, anything stand out apart from the very obvious? I can't believe how poorly that song did. Like number 4, I would have thought it would be a number 1 hit because it's stuck with me all my life, even without the movie. So, DK, you're a music guy. Anything stand out that we haven't mentioned?
I love Moroder's influence on this. Moroder has this tendency to do films that aren't incredibly well received. He also did the soundtrack for Superman 3.
He did Electric Dreams, which the song is better than anything in the movie.
That's fair enough, but it's Phil Oakey, so I try to stay away from that shit. I've got bad enough luck with it. I think the soundtrack is really great. I can't comment on the German one. I've not heard it, but this kind of thing will come up again later in the season when we look at Legend about an orchestral score and like a kind of electronic score with music added. But I think the Moroder one, and the song, it sells it. Yeah, it's cheesy and it makes it incredibly 80s, but the film is incredibly 80s, and I love it. I think as soon as I hear that, the background before Limal starts singing, I'm not saying he's not a bad singer in this, but as soon as I hear the music, I'm instantly transported and think of this film, and it's never become tiresome. You hear some tracks later on for movies, what can I think? Men in Black, Will Smith. You hear it and you go, okay, it's very much a product of its time. I'm so sick of hearing Men in Black all these years later, but I never get tired of hearing this. It gives you that sense of, I think, wonder. It's very evocative, and I think it works wonderfully.
Yeah, well, I just want to echo all that. So there's no point in me saying anything else because it was exactly what I wanted to say. So I would just say, second all of that. And what about you, Sandy? Anything in the music stand out that we haven't mentioned?
Just that the beginning of it, like Vean mentioned, with the instrumental version of the main song and the visuals, that just really set up the whole movie. It put you in a mood, which was really, I think, the instrumental version being instrumental in setting up the whole movie, and it just feels so important. It feels so important, and it was just made for this. And so it's a whole event. I think I don't forget if you had mentioned that it was the most expensive movie this director had made, most expensive movie in Germany or the US at that time.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm glad they didn't skimp out on the music. Really, they put their all into this movie.
Yeah. And I think it's a great song even outside of the movie. You know what I mean? It's so kind of evocative and haunting in its own way that, like I said, I knew the song long before I knew the movie, and I've heard it probably hundreds of times and loved it. And now I can put it to the movie because I've seen it. But yeah, I think it works anyway, just as well without it. What about you, Vean? Any thoughts that we haven't mentioned on the music?
Well, I just think that the score with the synthesizers and everything is so inextricably linked to the film itself. I can't imagine it with the other score, the German, more classical score. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine seeing that shot of the reveal of the ivory tower when it survives the devastation of the nothing, and the way that theme that sweeps in as the debris parts and you see it. I can't imagine that without that synthesizer and that beautiful melody. So I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
then when it did show up in Stranger Things all these many years later, and was a surprise to me that it was in there, I did get so very emotional. It was so beautiful.
Very good. Yep. Oh, bless. Yeah, I'm the same. I can't disagree with you. So, yeah. So then, we're going to cross over to you guys then, because as usual for Silver Screen Regular, I always put out a little prompt on social media to ask what you think of the film. And I did get a couple of responses, and I've got a tiny little bit about the critical response that I can add because I didn't get that many responses. But I'm going to cross over to the audience reaction now and just read out what did get said. First of all, on my personal Facebook page, my friend Jane Molly said, I loved this as a kid, but I have no doubt it was also one of the most traumatizing things I saw as a child. Artax and the Swamp of Sadness was absolutely traumatic. The 80s child introduction to depression symbolism. One of the best 80s film TV theme songs, too. I've recently added it to my housework chore playlist. Yes, we're that old. I'm planning on reading the book at some point and just picked up the most stunning Folio Society copy. It's such an 80s kid classic like Goonies, Labyrinth, etc., so I'll always have a fondness for it. I always loved Falkor, Atreyu, and Artax. For nostalgic vibes, I'd give it 4 stars. From NERD Group, David Howland just says, too soon, to which I responded, it's been 42 years. Get over it. From Cult Cinema on TV, Nancy Kelly says, I absolutely loved this as a kid. I tried to share it with my kid, but he absolutely noped out after Artax. Jesus. From my personal Instagram, Johnny W. Staggs says 5 stars. One of my all-time favorite movies. Loved it as a kid, and it still is so effective. And I think that's close to all I have. Oh, from personal Facebook again, Thomas Labernick. Hey, Tommy. Says, definitely one of my favorite childhood movies. Definitely agree that Artax and the swamp scene tears me up. I loved Falkor, and the movie is a 4 out of 5.
You say tears me up or cheers me up?
Tears me up.
Oh my God, I thought we've got some kind of sociopath there.
No. Me and Vean know Tommy. He's a nice guy, not a sociopath. So, but anyway, the film performed very well at the box office, grossing $100 million worldwide against a production budget of 60 million Deutschmarks, approximately 25 to 27 million US dollars at the time. Almost 5 million people visited theaters to see it in Germany, a number rarely achieved by German productions, resulting in a gross of about 20 million US dollars, making it the highest grossing German film at the time. And yet Toby still hasn't heard of it. It grossed a similar amount in the United States, only a modest sum in the American market, which director Wolfgang Petersen ascribed to the film's European sensibilities, as he put it. Okay. In 2019, as we've said, the theme song for the film was incorporated into the final episode of the 3rd season of science fiction thriller show Stranger Things, which takes place in 1985. After the episode was released, Spotify streams for the song increased by 400%. Oof. In 2024, after a few failed attempts by various parties to get a remake off the ground, Michael Ende Productions, in association with Seesaw Films, announced plans for a series of films based on the book, but these have yet to materialize as of right now in 2026. So kind of development limbo, I think, at this point. So yes, we've had audience responses and a few from the critics, so now it's time to give our thoughts on various things, starting as we always do on my particular episodes with favorite character, moment, and line. Who would like to go first? Anybody volunteer?
I am ready. I'll go first.
Okay, Sandy, you can go first. Favorite character, your favorite moment or scene, and your favorite line in the movie.
My favorite character was Atreyu, just because he was the, main spirit and protagonist of the story, in my opinion. And I just liked how fearless he was, how he kept going on. And though I wasn't able to watch this part in my youth, it's too bad because it's one of, I think, the best parts in the movie, which is when Atreyu is facing the Gamork at the end, and even the Gamork has given up at this point, and he tells him, you know, I've been after the only one who could have stopped all this, but you know, it's happening anyway. And he's like, I lost him in the swamps of sadness. His name was Atreyu, and how the lightning strikes and the ground shakes right when he says his name, and how Atreyu, you know, stands up and how he screams. And again, can't separate the voice actor from the actor in this part, but he says, if we're about to die anyway, I'd rather die fighting. Come for me, Gamork. I am Atreyu. And then he leaps at him. I just love that part. It's really awesome.
Goosebumps. Nice. Yeah, do you have a favorite line, or was that incorporated amongst that moment?
Incorporated amongst that, yes, because
Cool,
there's
that makes
so
sense.
many great iconic lines, I think, but it all runs together in this scene for me.
Awesome. Okay, Vean, I'm going to come to you next.
Favorite character line scene? Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard. I think Atreyu is probably my favorite character. I think the performance is very, very strong. Even now, trying to separate out the voice actor, I think just if I turned the sound off and watched the performance without the dialogue, I think he conveys so much, so effortlessly. It looks it's not effortless, but it looks effortless. And so I do really think that his beauty combined with the performance, combined with the atmosphere where you find him, it just really sells this character. That being said, I do love the Gamork.
Yeah.
I was a student for many years. I have a soft spot for canids. I always have, especially wolves, and I love that design. And as Sandy was just saying, the way the eyes just pop when he says Atreyu, and the teeth, and the design of that puppet is so beautiful. I don't find it scary. My brother did, as we said.
Clearly.
But I just think that, again, the voice, that gravelly voice, combined with those teeth and those green eyes, so beautiful. Plus, I just love wolves. So yeah, but I think Atreyu is my favorite character for sure. Can I throw in my least favorite moment? Because I have to say this or it's going to eat at me.
Okay.
My least favorite moment is when Bastian eats the apple core.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I want to scream every time. And I know apparently there are a few people who do that. And it's so bizarre.
I was prepared to fight you on it, but no, that you're right. Absolutely 100%.
Okay, good. All right. So favorite scene. Oh, it's so hard because there's so many that are moving for so many different reasons. But I think my favorite scene is actually when he's with the gnomes or the little people, because I love the warmth of that set. I love the design of their prosthetics, and it reminds me of my favorite theme park ride when I was a kid. Which was around the same time. So it ties into that whole 80s fantasy. There was a ride called Questar where you went through this cave system and you come to this like gnome-like scientist who maybe was inspired by this character who's trying to get this crystal. And you go on this ride. And it was amazing. And you can find it on YouTube. So I suggest people look it up. But it had that same sort of frenetic energy and that warmth of the set. And I think those characters are so believable, and the bickering old couple, and the makeup looks so...
To the wench.
Yes, exactly. Fall out of the basket, you know. I just love that scene. I love Atreyu's smile when he's kind of watching them and kind of going along with it. And she gives vitamins to Falkor, and it's just so charming. And it kind of breaks some of the tension because we had just come from, the swamp of sadness, and we're about to go to the gate. So you need that moment of levity. And again, like DK was saying, it's exposition-y without feeling exposition-y. So I think that's my favorite scene. Though there's not a scene in this I'm like, I could take it or leave it. I think all the scenes are good.
Unlike Mike.
With Bastian.
Apart from the apple core moment, obviously.
So even the scenes I would say I'm not fond of, because I don't think Barrett Oliver's a good actor, are necessary, and you know, they're the framework for the telling of the NeverEnding Story. So anyway, I'm going on too long. My favorite line is, they look like big, good, strong hands, don't they? When the rock biter has lost his friends and he's just
Yes.
in awe and shock, and you know, I thought I could do it, and I failed. I couldn't. And the devastation of that line, they look like big, good, strong hands. So he even repeats it at the end of speaking. He says the first thing he says to Atreyu, and it's the last thing he says. And that giving up, that he's just thrown in the towel. He's just, I'm done. I tried, and I didn't do it. And now I don't deserve to keep going myself. It's a really devastating moment. And I think it's, despite the fact that we're looking at a big puppet, very powerfully played.
Yeah. Okay. I can't disagree with any of that. So DK, over to you then.
Line, it would have either been the speech by the Gamork right at the end, or I would have gone for the one that Vean's just done with the Rockbiter. So I'm just going to say that the one that Sandy mentioned not long ago, to the Winch Wench.
And did you mention character and moment before?
Character, it's got to be Atreyu, hasn't it? Really. As for, and this is what I like about this film as a fantasy. There's not many, aesthetically speaking, fantasy films that use so many night shots and so many star fields as a background. And I think when it is used in this, such as, you know, when everything's been, when Fantasia's gone, yes, it works well. But the bit that gets me, and it does hold that tension, and there is kind of like a lull in the action, as it were, but it doesn't feel like a lull because it's so tense, is what I've got for my avatar, the bit where he's approaching the gate.
Ooh. Nice. I noticed you've changed your avatar as well.
It was my runner-up, but now it just feels like necessary.
Fair enough. Cool. So yeah, and did you? Yeah, you said your favorite character was Atreyu. So yeah, I'll give my stuff now then. In that case, my favorite character, I love Falkor. How could you not? You know, while we're changing avatars, my favorite moment was the reveal of Bastian's wish being to ride Falkor. It was such a cool punch to the air moment, literally in his case. I liked it anyway. And my favorite line, as I said, because I think it basically sums up the entire theme of the thing, is the conversation between the Gamork and Atreyu, where the Gamork says, "Foolish boy, don't you know anything about Fantasia? It's the world of human fantasy. Every part, every creature of it is a piece of the dreams and hopes of mankind. Therefore, it has no boundaries." Atreyu, but why is Fantasia dying then? Gamork, because people have begun to lose their hopes and forget their dreams, so the nothing grows stronger. Atreyu, what is the nothing? Gamork, it's the emptiness that's left. It's like a despair destroying this world, and I have been trying to help it. Atreyu, but why? Gamork, because people who have no hopes are easy to control, and whoever has control has the power. Yeah, just really good, frankly. So, yeah. Anyone want to fight me on any of that?
No, just to the scene you mentioned, my favorite part of that favorite scene is when they're flying over Atreyu and Artax again.
Yes, yeah,
hunting
definitely.
The purple buffalo across the plains.
Yeah, because I didn't like it when it went to the real world, but the flight through Fantasia I thought was fantastic, and I love Falkor anyway. So yeah, that's we just have to give our conclusions on our scores out of 5, and then we can get out of here. Hopefully not too long from now. So let's see, Sandy, are you happy if I come to you first for your conclusion and score?
Yeah, I really feel I've covered my feelings on the movie pretty much throughout. I've had opportunity to say everything I did want to say about it.
Good.
And I will give it, I'm being generous with trying to separate out my nostalgia, and I still give it like a 4.3 out of 5.
You always go really random. Okay, fair enough. 4.3 it is from Sandy. Vean, were you happy to give your conclusion and score?
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me, for sure.
Wow, okay.
Because, and I'll tell you why. Because I have very few criticisms of it. The only real criticism I have are super nitpicky, like really nitpicky. if I look at it as a creator, having done some film and TV and theater stuff, if I look at it through that lens, I can't look at it and go, I would have done this differently. I would have done that differently, or this is distracting, or anything like that. I can't criticize the pacing. I can't criticize the writing. I can't. And like I said, the only criticism I really have are here and there with a couple of the actors and the choices, but those are very few and far between. And so even if I was looking at this as not a movie I love from my childhood, I would still be looking at this going, this is very neat filmmaking. This is very tidy. They really tied all the bows. So I think it just has to be a 5 out of 5 for me.
Awesome. Cool. DK, over to you then.
I was shocked at how well this holds up, to be honest. The direction is really well done. The pacing is, in my opinion, especially for a film of this type, flawless, especially when, in recent months I've been looking at films that aren't so good on that front. The effects, yes, they're 80s, yes, they're dated, but as you mentioned earlier, I would take this over CGI nonsense any day of the week. It's got some fantastic characters. The creativity on display is just fantastic. Again, like Vean, like she said, when it comes to, there are a couple of things that aren't perfect for me. And like Sandy said, maybe I'm kind of looking at it at this point with nostalgia, rose-tinted specs. But I think it holds up brilliantly as a movie, and I still don't think it gets the recognition it deserves. So I'm going to give it 4.5.
4.5. Okay, that would be 4.5 out of 5. Oh, right. Just bear with me. I'm just getting my ducks in a row here. So, I can't believe I'd never seen this film before. It's very much my jam. A treatise on the importance of imagination, stories, and never losing childhood wonder in a world that wants to drag you down to earth. It's incredibly imaginative, both in its world building and early meta postmodern touches, which only serve to reinforce the connection between audience and subject matter. It's beautifully directed with perfect dreamlike aesthetics, wondrous creatures, and a slightly familiar but ultimately uplifting quest. Very slight minus points for some seeming plot redundancy, a few dated effects, and that annoying tacked-on silly ending. But overall, this is one story that touched my heart and connected me with my inner child and the sense that hope overcomes all obstacles that I want to always believe in. It doesn't hurt that the theme song is powerful and incredibly emotionally engaging as well. Long live Fantasia. And I also gave it 4.5 out of 5, 4.5. So, yeah, putting those scores together, dividing by the 4 of us here, gives you a final score for the NeverEnding Story of 4.575 out of 5. So you may as well say 4.5, I guess, out of 5 for that. So, yeah, can't really say fairer than that, can you?
I think that's
4 point.
Pretty perfect.
Yeah. Worked out quite well. You were saying, Vean, sorry?
I said I think you should round it up to 4.6 then.
Actually, you are right. 4.6 would make a lot more sense for rounding. You're absolutely right. My mistake. Sorry. So,
I'm always right. Didn't we establish that a couple of times already?
I'm saying nothing. And thus, with Fantasia restored and the NeverEnding Story ever being written, it just remains for me to thank anyone who's enjoyed listening to this, which hopefully you have done. So thank you for sticking with us. Please check out the link tree in our episode description to find us all over the internet. We really are desperately trying to grow the brand and find our lost viewers as our views drop off. So like, share, subscribe, find us online, get in touch with us, any means necessary. And you can also always check out our link, our TeePublic link to buy merchandise, which will always be linked as well on the episodes. And you can always join the channel if you would like to as a member for as little as $2.99 a month. Get extended episodes, a chance to pick which films we review, and various other little bonuses as well. So yeah, thanks for that. And thank you for the 3 of you for joining me here, 3 of my genuinely favorite people. And yeah, first of all, thank you, DK, my loyal right hand as ever.
Always, mate.
Nice. You definitely seem to have enjoyed this then.
I have. It's nice to talk about. Good movies.
Yeah, you're going to actually try and find your copy of it now.
It's somewhere, but I will find it.
When you find it, I expect you to punch the air just like you're riding Falkor. Like, yay! I found it. So, yeah, thanks again for that. See you again soon, no doubt.
Eat
And
the rest
thank
of
you,
your
Sandy.
sandwich. Oh, hello. Yes, it was great. I actually am going to seek out the book now. I'm very interested. My daughter and I were talking about it last night, and I'm very interested in how the second part of that book is supposed to kind of balance out, not just being in the clouds, not just giving into your dreams, but there has to be balance because for every wish he's making, he's losing a memory. And so now I have to read the rest of it. I'm really interested.
Yeah. Again, that is basically the foundational plot of the NeverEnding Story 2, Return to Fantasia, the movie, but apparently that's not great, and it adds bits that aren't in the book as well. So anyway, did you have anywhere that people can find you online or anything you wanted to plug, Sandy?
No, to the winch.
Fair enough. And Vean, again, thank you so much for joining me. You're always a pleasure to listen and get your insights, and you always tend to know a little bit more than me, I will reluctantly admit.
Yes, I do. No, it's interesting to hear TK having to find something. I used to have, I just remembered this, a necklace of the Aran, and now I'm like, where is that?
I have that. Yes.
So now I'm like, where? I gotta see if I can find that. But there's one for our fantasy fans. One movie I should have mentioned at the very beginning, and I don't know how I forgot. If you haven't seen The Last Unicorn, fantastic animated fantasy film from the 80s. What was the other question?
No, nothing. Just to say thank you for joining us. And do you have anything you wanted to plug or anywhere people can find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky if you're lucky, because I got labeled as rude, so you might not be able to find me. That's Lady Vean, LadyVean, or just hit up Mike if you want to find me, because he always knows where to get me.
That sounds really weird and ominous, but yes, I always know how to find you. So weirdly sinister. And yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, DK, did you have anything you wanted to plug? I don't think you've got much coming up, have you? Other than these?
just this show, really. Cult Classics is on a hiatus at the moment while we retool it, but keep coming back to regular flavour and Mike's Cinema Classics while he tries desperately to catch up to my episode count.
Yeah, don't worry. There is actually one more Cult Classic still to do, which you've clearly forgotten about.
Oh, mate, I live and breathe that shit. I've not forgotten about
that. By the power of Grayskull.
I know a little smart alecky and a little smarmy, but I truly do appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem. No, don't worry about it. You're fine. That's just the way we are with each other. I know some people probably don't know this, but anyway. So, stay tuned, because in just 1 week's time, we hope you can join us as we're headed to the blighted planet Thra and a magical adventure with Gelflings and Skeksis vying for power over the mystical Dark Crystal. But that's another story. Goodbye.
You have been listening to the Silver Screen Podcast, hosted by Mike Wilson and DK. Behind the Scenes section by DK. Additional material by Mike Wilson. Follow us on social media, our YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. Link to all of these places can be found via the link tree listed in this episode's description. This podcast is a Media Matters original production, created, produced, and edited by Mike Wilson. We'd love it if you'd like, subscribe, and share us around like a beloved old video cassette. We hope to see you next time for more movie magic. Until then, remember, life moves pretty fast, so stop and watch a movie now.